Over the past year, I've been more active on social media and I get so much unsolicited advice from people on LinkedIn and Facebook telling me to quit my job and start a business. And if you go onto YouTube, you have so much content of these people who've quit their jobs, started their business, and magically found so much happiness. As a 9-to-5 employee myself, it's made me question, is having a job really that bad? So in this video, we'll tackle 3 common concepts when it comes to having a job: building wealth, your dreams, and your creativity. And by the end of this video, you can decide for yourself whether the 9-to-5 is a scam. One of the first things I hear when it comes to being an employee is that you can't really make money while having a job. Of course, you're getting paid a salary, but you can't build real wealth while having a job. Now, first things first, not everybody wants to make a lot of money, and you can't really blame a person for that. Certain things in life are not measured by money. Can you honestly tell a public school teacher who's pouring their heart and soul in teaching underprivileged students that what they're doing is not important? It's the same thing that goes with nonprofit volunteers, public servants, and the list goes on. There are many types of jobs in the world that provide so much impact but just don't pay you well. And that's the sacrifice that many people who work these jobs have to make. We have to be thankful for that people are willing to sacrifice wealth for service. And saying things like you can't build money while having this job, it kind of defeats what they're doing. Now, moving past that, let's say you want to get rich. Can you do that while having a job? Because the term rich can be very subjective, let's define it. The top 0.01% of the world, the billionaires and decabillionaires, okay, for sure, you're going to need a business to achieve that. But to get to the top 1% of wealth in the world, that's another story. And being in the top 1%, that sounds pretty cool, and I think that's not so bad. In the Philippines, that amount significantly drops to around 3 million pesos or $60,000. And that seems kind of low. But the reality is that the average net worth of Filipinos is just $10,000 or 500,000 pesos. So let's set the bar higher, around 12.5 million pesos. So can you achieve that in your lifetime while having a job? In the Philippines, the reality is that people are probably earning around 30 to 40,000 pesos per month. And doing just some simple math, given that you have 30 to 35 years of working life, you're not gonna hit 12.5 million pesos. That's just the reality. So if your only option of creating wealth is by having a job, then you're going to have to target higher salary. So for beginners, let's target 100,000 pesos per month. Because if you can save around 30% of that every month, that is going to lead to a net worth of 12.5 million pesos over the course of 30 years. So if you're an employee and you want to build wealth, then you're going to have to think about the various options in your career. So here are some questions that you're going to have to ask yourself to know if you can get to that higher earning level. First question from me, are you confident that you can move up in your current company and move up the ladder? Promotions do lead to higher pay, and while it's not as fast as building a business, you can create some serious wealth that way. So try to get yourself to a managerial level who's probably earning 100,000 pesos per month. And hey, if you want to push yourself further, you can bring yourself to a vice president level who's earning 300 to 500,000 pesos per month. To get to managerial level, you're probably going to get it in your 30s, while getting to vice president level, you may get that in your 40s. And by doing simple math alone, you will reach the top 1% of wealth in the Philippines by the time you retire. But let's say you're stuck and you don't think your current employer can pay you any higher. All hope is not lost. There are various options that exist outside your current company. And one of these is by transferring to another company. And as I've explained in other videos, you can get a salary bump of 30% to even double when you leave a current company. Now, if that doesn't work, you still have so many other options. You can try to reskill yourself so that you can transfer to a higher earning industry. We're talking about transferring to emerging industries and new jobs where there's less competition. Think about product managers, data scientists, engineers. These guys can be earning 6 digits right out of college. It's going to take a few months for you to retrain yourself, and you might need to enroll in some paid classes, but the rewards are well worth it. My main takeaway here is that if your only option is getting a job and you don't think having a business for you, then you need to find ways of how to increase your earning power while being an employee. As we've laid out in this section, There are so many options that exist. The ones I've laid out, those are just the beginning, and there are much, much more. The second thing I hear about having a job is that it kills dreams. When you work a 9 to 5, you're stuck in your cubicle making money for someone else and trying to achieve their dreams. And this may be quite true. The company you're working for is probably the dream of the owners. And while they're paying you a salary, remember that they're making money off the time you're doing. So you hate your job, but you need to pay the bills. But let's take a step back here, because there are people who really like what they do in their jobs. In 2018, there was a study by Accenture that showed that 95% of Filipinos love their jobs. And that sounds like BS to me, because anytime you get close to 100%, it's probably not true. But don't let it take away the fact that some people really do love their jobs. Let's take, for example, a nurse or a doctor who dreams about saving lives. They're overworked, they may be underpaid, but hey, there's so much impact and meaning in what they do. Or think about somebody who dreams of serving the country by joining the Army or the Navy. And we know in the Philippines, it's not the highest paying job in the world. But who are we to say what people's dreams should be? As long as you're happy in what you're doing, and even if you're not the richest person in the world, for me, that's perfectly fine. The important point here is that you need to define what type of work you love to do. Because some of that can really be found in a 9 to 5 job. And another thing, you need to define for yourself what kind of life you want to live. Because let's face it, not everybody really wants to get rich. At the end of the day, none of us are leaving this planet alive. So some of us just want to spend quality time with our family. So that means having a job, even if it doesn't pay the most, as long as it can support your family and you can spend time with them, then that's enough for most. You need to define for yourself how you want to spend the limited time we have here in this world. Whether that's pursuing riches, spending time with loved ones, spending time with family, because some of that can really be done while having a job. And if you can achieve that dream life while having a 9 to 5 job, then by all means, go take it. Now, the last thing I wanted to comment on is that getting a job kills your creativity, and it kills your soul. Unfortunately, this can be true if you're working a boring 9 to 5 job. And sadly, many companies, all they do is ask you to follow an established process. So you're in this kind of routine where you commute to work, take your early morning coffee, go to work, get lunch, go to work again, and then go home, go to sleep. You're kind of like this robot who's performing some task. And if you put it that way, I'm not sure if that's the kind of life that you really want to live. So let's assume that you've exhausted all your options in finding a better job. Here's the thing, your job doesn't have to define your life, and you can pursue so many creative things outside your job. What I mean by this is that you can get a hobby, take up a sport, take up an instrument. Look at me, I'm a 9 to 5 employee, and here I am spending my free time creating these YouTube videos. And you can imagine just the type of thinking and studying that I go through to try to get you to watch my videos. What you might want to avoid is spending your entire free time and weekends consuming content on social media and things like Netflix. Being a consumer is probably one of the greatest killers of creativity. It's literally the new type of farming, guys. I mean, people farm now for your attention. They hook you onto this platform or onto this movie, and they generate money out of you through your subscriptions, ad revenue, and other things. So this is pretty basic, but if you define yourself as a 9 to 5 employee who's working a 9 to 5 job, then of course your creativity is getting killed. But if you define yourself in a more holistic sense and know that there's life outside of work, then you're probably pursuing creative things and finding happiness outside of that. Some people will want to live this life by chasing riches. Other people, they want to do it by spending time with their family. There's no one way to live a perfect life. Because life is defined by a person, then there are so many ways to be successful, there are so many ways to pursue your dreams, and there are so many ways to be wealthy. It's up to you to decide how you want to achieve that and how you want to pursue it. It's a very basic video, and if you're on social media, of course, you're gonna get so many comments and thoughts on how you should live your life. But at the end of the day, that's up to you. If you liked it, please do like the video and subscribe and leave a comment down below. What type of life do you want to live? Alright, bye-bye. I'll see you next week.